already know who it is. Welcome back to the RotoHackers podcast. We are your unauthorized reporters of fantasy football news and information. My name is AJ Herschel, also known as The Kid, and I'm here with Judah Buddha, and it's Jared!
I remember when my name was like the weirdest. That was like the most boring.
I gotta come up with an intro for you. And welcome back to RotoHackers podcast as the norm on Tuesday nights. And gentlemen, how were your fantasy spoils this week? Uh-oh.
We'll save the best for last. You go first, Judah.
Oh boy.
Ouch. I was about 500. I won some important ones. But it's like, I don't know. I'm not discouraged because in most of my league, I'm like in playoff contention, even though I'm like 3-2. Is that right? 3-2. Some leagues, I'm like middle of the pack with 2 and 3. So I'm like, oh.
Okay.
It seems like there's a lot of 3-2, 2 and 3s.
That always
most
happens.
leagues. Yeah. So I'm okay. I beat. I don't know though. I was telling Jared last night. I beat a guy by 0.5. So we'll see.
No, it was wasn't it 0.1?
0.1. Yeah. 0.1.
0.1.
It's not as bad as Jared's story.
No, it's the same as.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Same
I thought yours was 0.5. I had 0.5.
No, ours are both 0.1. Yeah.
Okay.
I was beating a guy by 2.1 points, and then Odell Beckham fumbled, and so I'm ahead by 0.1 points. And so Judah and I are both like sweating out stat corrections this week.
This is the first time I've ever done this.
And I already had one this year, where I can't remember. It was like I think it was week 1.
Yeah, it was
where I had a tie, where I was up by 1/10 of a point, going into stat corrections, and then it got taken away, and so I had a tie. And it's just insanely,
oh my goodness,
it's insanely difficult to have a tie in fractional points, But I had a tie already, and so I could potentially have another.
Interesting.
So I went 11-6. So that's
not bad.
Pretty good. Pretty good. I'll take it.
Record.
Everything seems like a disappointment after like 16-1 in week 2. So I just have to I try to have to remind myself hey, if you win more than you lose, that's pretty good. So
true. Just
what about
that
you?
perfect 17-0.
Yeah. So if the playoffs started today, and now this won't stay this way. Not all these teams will do this well, unfortunately. But if the playoffs started today, 15 of my 17 teams would make the playoffs.
Nice.
Wow.
That won't happen though, unfortunately.
If the playoffs started today, I think 2 of mine.
Wow.
What about you, AJ?
Judah Buddha pretty much hanging around you, about 500. I got killed in one league, in 2 or 3 of my leagues by Mike Evans. He killed me this week, and Philip Dorsett also killed me as well. I think I had Evans and Dorsett in one league, and both of them Dorsett got injured, and then Evans didn't do anything, and that was discouraging. But I won one league where I thought it was definitely going to lose because San Francisco's defense got me 19 points. So
nice.
that was a fun way to end Monday night.
I need to find I think this is the worst beat that I've ever seen, and I need to while we're sitting here talking, I need to look it up to find exactly what it is just to make sure. But in one of my leagues, this guy lost by, I think it was again 1/10 of a point.
Ouch.
176 point something to 176 point something, again 1/10 of a point difference, and the guy lost because he went into Sunday night just needing 0.2 of a point from Sammy Watkins, and Sammy Watkins had 0. I gotta find that and screen cap that for you. That is probably like the most painful loss that I've ever seen because he scored so many points and he just needed Sammy Watkins to like catch a ball for -3 yards or something.
I feel him.
Did anybody know that Sammy was not going to play?
No, he got hurt, didn't he? Like,
play. Yeah, he got hurt mid-game.
No, I don't think he started that game.
I'm pretty sure he did.
I don't know.
I think it was a surprise scratch because I remember the first quarter seeing Pringle or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I thought that he was active for it, but then either got hurt without a target
if he got hurt, it was like right at the beginning. Because
I think it
right
was
at the beginning with he was questionable coming in with a shoulder issue, and he exited early in the game with a hamstring issue. So fun all around.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Watkins is gonna Watkins.
Yep.
Never makes any sense. But anyway, we move on to the news, and there is quite a lot this week. So first of all, I don't know. Maybe this is the obvious one for me. The Steelers are down to their third quarterback. And they are going so fast, and Mason Rudolph is now gone, which means that the Pittsburgh Steelers are down to a quarterback that I had never even heard of, and I'm filibustering because I'm looking up his name
I was about to say like $10 to the person who could name him, but now
Evelyn Hodges, that's his name.
But he's not. What's his name? Rudolph's not out for indefinitely, is he?
No. He was at the hospital though.
I know, but sometimes I don't know. It's
he
precautionary.
Well, I mean, I think he had to have a concussion. I mean, he was not knocked out. Okay. So I don't think he plays this week. But then I think they have isn't there bye next week? And so
it's soon.
Yeah, and so I think sorry, I'm getting a friendly little. Do you want to restart update from Windows?
What? Bad timing.
Alert.
So yeah, I mean, I think he's he'll miss. I can't believe he would play this week, but he should be. He shouldn't miss. Like, I think, especially if they've got their bye, which I'm going to check on.
Yeah, he's still in concussion protocol currently. So, being that the Steelers are 99% sure down to their third quarterback for next week, how does this affect literally all of Pittsburgh? Judah Buddha, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, I think this coincides with some more news that came out later, but I think, it's tough because this is also the first weekend that Juju scored. So it was like encouraging, but I'm also, it's hard to be real encouraged. I've got a question for you guys, actually. I've got my own question for you guys because I have to make some decisions about Juju. And I mean, all I can picture is the coaches, play calling some kind of weird gadget play for Benny Snell and Juju, maybe it's DeAndre Johnson. I mean, Deontay Johnson. I just don't know, man. It seems like they're trying to get Juju going. But is Connor, is he still injured or is he back?
So Connor is apparently sort of okay. I think he's just going to be. I think he's just going to be like his ankles are constantly going to be. But I guess. I don't know if you saw this, if this was the other news you were talking about, but Jalen Samuels is out for the next month or so.
Yep.
Oh no, for a month.
Yeah. So yeah, they're not going to be running Wildcat with Jalen Samuels, and
not with him, but
he's a different type of back than Snell and Connor. Maybe they could try it, but he's just different. I don't think they would. I don't think it would work as well with the other two. So I actually feel okay about Juju. I actually feel better. Weirdly enough, I actually feel better about the Steelers going forward because he was actually able to throw the ball to Juju.
The new guy?
Yeah, I think
Devlin Hodges. Yes.
Yeah, I think Juju got his. Did he get his touchdown with him, or did he get it with Rudolph?
I think he got it with Rudolph.
I don't remember.
Either way, the guy was able to at least lead him on a drive. But I mean, it basically this is a 1 week thing, and then they have a bye. And so I feel a little bit better because, like I said, I mean, like their schedule coming up is just a cakewalk after the bye. Naturally, my screen does not want to click at the moment. But you know, they've got Miami. I think let's see.
Then they have the Colts though, and then after that the Rams.
Yeah, but I mean the Rams' pass defense is the Rams' defense period is not really that formidable. So
I wouldn't say it's a cakewalk though.
True.
Well, as soon as if I can ever get to it, then I'll talk about it a little bit more. But
so the bye is week 7, and they got Miami, Indiana, Rams, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland again, Arizona, Buffalo, New Jersey,
the Jets,
and then
Jets,
yeah. I mean, I just I think the fact that I mean, part of the thing is with Connor. So I'm talking about a little bit about Connor too here, but you know, Connor's, you know, with Samuel's out, he's gonna get more. He should get like a full load, you know, against Miami, Indy, maybe the Rams, depending on if Samuel's is back by then. And you know, Juju. I think the thing with Juju is what you can expect from him for the rest of the season, or what you need from him. So, you know, the thing is, like 4 out of 5 games, you know, he's had, you know, basically between 11 to 15 points. You know, it's not wide receiver 1 numbers, but I mean, that's solid. So I think that's pretty much, you know, he's been really consistent as far as that goes. He's had, you know, his yardage has been 78, 84, 81, and then the 15 game that killed me, and then 75 and a couple of touchdowns mixed in. So it's not that he's really doing that bad fantasy wise, but just for a 2nd round pick, he's not doing well. And I don't think, like, I think that's basically what you're going to get out of him this year.
Judah Buddha, anything to add to that?
So I think at some point we need to talk about the Monday night game.
Oh yeah.
Just because looking at his schedule and looking at how the Browns are playing, I think the Browns really could be an X factor going in, you know, into the next couple of weeks. Are they going to be a solid defense, or are they just going to be a dumpster fire? You know, are they going to be a solid team, or are they going to be a dumpster fire? Like, I think that'll matter a lot because, I mean, first 4 games of the season, they were a decent defense. But if they become some kind of like a terrible dumpster fire team, which I mean, hard for me to believe that with as much talent as they have, that they can't put together a winning team. But so, I mean, because they do, you know, Pittsburgh does play them twice, and that's a divisional, you know, matchup that matters a lot to the Steelers. So I don't know. It when I look into their future, of course I like it when they're playing Miami. I think everybody probably feast. But there's a couple other matchups that I'm like, ugh, I don't know. Browns and Bills, and I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, Bills are a solid defense. They're getting better and better every week.
Yeah.
Well, moving on. Another thing that happened is that, well, Philadelphia's defense, someone had that and killed me in a league, and they put up 35 points on the lowly New York Jets. But Sam Darnold is going to come back in week 6 against the Cowboys. So, are the Jets still going to be the team that you pick up a defense, whoever's playing against them? Or are they actually going to get better and become a somewhat functioning offense? What do you guys think? Jared, let's start with you.
Yeah, no, I won't stream against them. I think Darnold's capable. They've got Le'Veon Bell. They've got, their targets aren't phenomenal, but Robbie Anderson's dangerous. They've got Herndon back. And again, they dump the ball off to Bell over and over. I think they'll be okay. And again, Robbie Anderson is, if you need a wide receiver, maybe if you're in a deeper league, because man, there are so many wide receivers doing well right now. Most of my teams, it's like hard for me to find a spot to roster Robbie Anderson. But I would not feel that good about streaming against the Jets right now. Still feel good about streaming against the Dolphins. Still feel good about streaming against Washington. Even Buffalo. Buffalo, Josh Allen's going to turn the ball over some. So, but yeah, I would not want to take a chance on the Jets unless Darnold comes back and it's just playing like garbage. But he looked good in the preseason.
Judah Buddha, what are your thoughts?
I actually think the Bengals and Arizona would be better to stream against.
Yeah, the Bengals. Yeah.
The thing is, though, this next week might be okay to stream against them as they're trying to figure things, try to get their ducks in a row again. Of course, they are coming off a bye, so that might help a lot, right? Are they on bye this week?
Yeah. They had a bye in week 4.
So I don't know. I mean, it's always the thing I think about in football is you can have great pieces like Herndon and Bell, and you can get Darnold back, but if they're not clicking together, like a well-oiled machine, it could easily turn into a turnover machine. Which, I mean, I still think they can put up some good offense, but as they're trying to work out some of these, I guess we lost our fearless leader there. But yeah, as I'll get off of just me. I don't like that. As we go forward, I think they're going to be a lot better. But I think this game in particular this week could be a good one to stream against. What do you?
I don't trust Dallas Dallas as a real world defense can do okay, but I was looking up to see I started them against Miami because if you're not going to start Dallas against Miami, who are you going to stream them against?
Yeah, well, I remember I told you that's when it's time for me to stream against them.
Yeah. But they had the Giants in week 1. They had 6 fantasy points. They had at Washington in week 2. They had 1 fantasy point. So I just Dallas has just never seemed to be the team that really puts up good, defensive fantasy point numbers. So Darnold back, Dallas on the road. I don't trust them enough. I mean, again, depending on what your options are, maybe, but they wouldn't be like a top. I don't think they wouldn't be a top 5 defense for me.
Well, they don't have killer rushers, right? Like they don't have. Well, their pressure is not the hardest.
You would think that it would be better. DeMarcus Lawrence, and then their young linebacker. Leighton Vander
Esch?
Yeah. They've got some talent up front, but it just, I don't know. It never seems to turn into a game where they just get, half a dozen sacks or 3 INTs or 3 fumble recoveries, something like that. So I just, sure. I mean, if I top 10 defense, probably, but I would look to other options.
I agree. I do think though, this is, as we talk about the waiver wire, we don't want to get too deep into it, but this is a great opportunity to start picking up Herndon and Anderson. What do you think about picking up Darnold himself? Like, if a lot of people are really desperate for quarterbacks, right now, which is weird, but especially in a 2 quarterback league. I mean, Darnold's probably already rostered. But if Darnold, I've seen him out on my on the waiver wire quite a bit. Would he be somebody, if you were like stuck with, if you were starting okay, so like one league I was starting the Red Rocket.
Red Rifle.
Oh, sorry.
I believe it's Red Rifle. Yeah.
Would you? Red Rocket something else. Would you consider having hey there, man, Darnold over what's his name?
Andy Dalton?
Andy Dalton? Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing is, again, just like look into the schedule. I don't like Darnold for the next few weeks. He's got Dallas, New England, and then at Jacksonville. But then check this out. Then it's Miami, Giants, Redskins, Raiders, which the Raiders are a little better than we thought, but Chase Daniel was finally like lighting them up in the second half. Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens, which the Ravens, haven't had a great pass defense. So like with
cake,
he has, like he could light it up towards like basically like it starts about week 9. So like the second half of the season, Sam Darnold could just start lighting it up. And I don't think many people are going to be picking him up right now. I don't think he's going to be doing a ton of stuff against Dallas and, definitely not New England. So there's some leagues where, I guess maybe if you're desperate for him right now, but really I think the window would be maybe pick him up before that Jacksonville game, and then keep him on the bench and then start rolling him out the week after that. And I'm going to have to do some things at quarterback in some leagues, I think, because I've got Carson Wentz, and Wentz has done pretty well, but again, like his schedule coming up is just pretty rough. I mean, he's at Minnesota, at Dallas, at Buffalo, Chicago, bye week, New England. So like he's not looking like a super great option until about, week 12 or 13 again. So yeah.
Well, and this is the first year in a while that I've been like kind of panicked looking ahead to see who am I going to use on my quarterbacks bye week, because there so many guys are injured that it's like a lot of people have been picking up second quarterbacks just to kind of stick it to the people that don't have a quarterback, or that lost their quarterback, like lost Breeze or lost Roethlisberger. So, and I'm going to the waiver wire now thinking, like,
well, in what size leagues?
12 or more, but 10, even in 10, like we'll talk about some people on the waiver wire that I was looking at. But
yeah.
Oh, fun. Okay, so last bit of news before we move on. Now, Cam Newton's officially been ruled out for week 6, which means Kyle Allen's going to play again. And he's probably going to come back in week 8, being that the Panthers have a bye during week 7. However, even though people were saying after Kyle Allen's great big 4-touchdown game in week 1, he has significantly dropped off after that. So for you guys, is Cam Newton worth possibly picking up and stashing after he gets back healthy?
That's what I was going to ask you guys.
I beat you to it.
Yeah. I mean, again, it just always depends on what are your other options, gosh,
You're still stuck with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I would play him over Baker Mayfield.
Is Baker droppable at this point?
I dropped him a while ago.
A couple weeks ago.
I dropped him after like week 3, maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
So So it's really weird though. Like you were talking about that, but like in my leagues, it's kind of different. Like I think in like 3 or 4 of my 17 leagues, like people have dropped Matt Ryan. And so like I picked him up. I picked him up in 1 or 2 and then couldn't get him in a couple others. But just people are doing just weird,
I figured it out. You go and you play in those $100 leagues, and those are a bunch of like old men who can't see very well, and they're like, "Who am I dropping?" I mean, it's got to be something like that.
I don't. I'm in our $50 league. I'm 5-0 in our $50 league. So I don't know. I don't. And actually, my best team's my 250 league. So, but that's because I made 2 just like thievery trades at the beginning of the year. So, Cam, it just depends on like I would not want to have to trust him as my. I mean, good luck to you. God bless you if you're trusting him as your every week starter. But he's got that potential, or he has had that potential before in the past. But you just there's no way to know if the foot injury was really making that big of a deal, or if they were like, hey, you've just got so much stuff going on with your mechanics and stuff. Let's just sit you down for a while. We're going to try to get you back on track. I mean, just, who knows? So it's a gamble. I would, not have a problem stashing him on the bench, but man, I would hate to have to trust him.
Oof. Judah Buddha, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm someone who started off with a good bit of Cam, drafting him in like the 8th, 9th round. And, but luckily I also had a lot of Jackson. I don't know. I mean, I dropped him the first week, and so he's on a lot of my waiver wires, and he has been ever since I dropped him. But I don't know. Like I'm like in Jared's league, I picked up Drew Brees, and I've got him in my IR spot. But I'm looking at Cam, thinking, he's kind of. He has more upside than Drew Brees in some ways because of his running ability.
True, but he also has a much lower.
But that's a big if.
Wow. If he runs, like that was the problem with the first 2 games is he wasn't running. So
yeah. I mean, but he was hurt.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, if he could easily come back and be, healthy Cam from last year, and then it's like, oh, I wish I had picked him up. Because he would be a great fill-in for Jackson. Whereas, I like having Breeze on my bench, but I'm also thinking about like, I don't know, Breeze can be pretty inconsistent these days as he, has they rely heavily on the running game, and he just hasn't thrown as much.
The scary thing with Breeze nowadays is not just the fact that they rely heavily on the running game, but sometimes when they get inside the 5, it's like, okay, we're going to take you out for Taysom Hill.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the other thing.
Yeah, it is sort of risky with Breeze now.
What about you, AJ? What do you think? You've always been kind of a Cam. You've liked Cam.
Okay. Cam, first off, went to Auburn. Okay, that's a problem. All right, we'll get that out of the way. Second off, I've owned him before, especially when he was less injury prone, and he was decently good back then. Like if he was healthy, he would play pretty well. And then as time went on, especially over the last few years, he's been so inconsistent, and injuries have just been. I mean, I always joke about other people being questionable every week, but Cam Newton is pretty much the perfect picture of being questionable. So honestly, I wouldn't really pick him up right now. No, I need him to play at least one game to actually see how well he does. I mean, if you're in a desperate situation and you need someone else, you still got Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I might keep him on the bench if I have room for him, but for the most part, I wouldn't pick him up.
The tough thing about it with him is like, you just never know. Like, if you're streaming a quarterback, you're probably streaming them because they're playing a bad pass defense.
Right.
And no matter how terrible they are, they're probably going to be able to get you some points against. But with Cam, like he can he can be so terrible that he gets you 6 points,
Yeah.
and
Even when he was healthy.
Yeah, even when he's healthy. And so, I mean, he'll just have games where he's just throwing the ball, into the ground 3 yards in front of the receiver or sailing it, 5 feet over their head. So it's really tough to trust him.
Okay, so I guess that kind of is a good segue into our waiver wire pickups as well.
Well, before we do that, can we talk
please.
about last night's game?
If you had, yes, Monday night's
game, because I feel like, I don't know, that was such a weird game. I do want to say, though, I did mention that I thought that the 49ers would do well, because they always do well when they have time to scheme against just one team over the bye and stuff. But it was more than the 49ers being good. It was really disturbing to see them fall apart. Like weird things, like starting off with OBJ throwing the first pass.
That was fun, though.
It was fun. And at first I was like, that's awesome. But like, in light of the rest of the game, I'm like, this was a clown show, It was like, all the way up until OBJ actually, like, he was doing it. He was running the ball at first. He was passing, he was running the ball, he was returning the ball, and it felt weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I get your point there. Yeah, it's it's hard to know. It's hard to know exactly what's going on there. But you think he had 2 catches for 20 yards last week against the Ravens, and so I'm sure he was not happy, or either he wasn't happy, or they just knowing who he is like, okay, he's not happy. We need to like get him involved early, doing some different stuff. And yeah, it was just a disaster. But if you think about that team, like, here you've got Baker Mayfield, who, if anybody has kept up with Baker Mayfield over the years, you know what his personality is like. He's, this super cocky guy, who he has the arrogance of someone who has accomplished much more. And then you have OBJ, who is, he's great, but he likes to be the center of attention. And then you've got Freddie Kitchens, who's a first-year head coach, who, I don't know. Like, I don't know if he's got any kind of real, like, reins on all of this. I could very easily see just the Browns completely imploding, because they're a style, not substance team. Weirdly enough, because like they've got some, they've got Myles Garrett, they've got some good cornerbacks, but they have no offensive line, and they don't really have, I'm just not sure like Baker Mayfield is going to be like the quarterback to navigate a rocky season, or that Kitchens is going to be the coach to navigate a rocky season. And it was entertaining, though. It was entertaining to watch San Francisco and you should go, like, if you haven't listened to any of like Nick Bosa's interviews.
Yeah, that was the cool part. The fact that he was coming out from Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
And where they got embarrassed by like Oregon, or where was he from?
So Baker Mayfield was with Oklahoma, and so Ohio State beat them at one point on their field, and like Nick Bosa was just like a freshman at the time, and so I don't know. I think Ohio State sung their fight song on the Oklahoma field or whatever, and so then
I think Oklahoma beat Ohio State 31-16.
Well, this was prior to this was kind of like how it supposedly all originally started. Was Ohio State beat Oklahoma in Oklahoma, then whatever it was, 2 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
When Baker goes and plants the flag, supposedly that was payback for what Ohio State did.
Yeah.
And so
and then Bosa, man, he was like,
oh, that was great. It was just the greatest celebration. And you could just see him, like, you could tell like how much fun they were having, just like pulverizing him into the ground. And Nick Bosa was talking about how, you know, he, like, normally he doesn't talk trash, but how he was just going around like, Baker, come on, bro, make this a game. Come on, we need a challenge here. which I think is just hilarious, you know. So
I feel bad for Baker in some ways because it's so embarrassing for him.
I don't. He needs, if you're gonna do that kind of thing, I don't feel bad for him.
Yeah. No. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I want to know what you think.
Okay, first off, I've never been a huge Baker Mayfield fan. Personality wise, play style wise is all right, but I've never been a huge fan. Go Georgia. We beat Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. Just saying. Second off, oh my goodness. I every time I remember him coming out of the draft, I get flashbacks to Johnny Manziel, which was the scariest quarterback that I ever remember coming out of the draft. And as soon as Cleveland took him, I looked over at my dad. I was watching the draft and said, their season is over. And now with Baker Mayfield, he's been underperforming really, I think, this year. I think last year was fine. Underperforming this year. Nick Chubb is really the only anchor in Cleveland. Cleveland's a mess. They're averaging 2 touchdowns a game. That's with the 40-point game. I don't like Cleveland at all except Chubb. They're a mess.
Baker, I looked it up just for fun to see what his fantasy point total was last night. And so,
did he get any points?
It was, well, that's the funny thing. It was 0.0.
I don't want to talk about it.
He had 100 yards. He had 2 INTs, and then I guess he had a fumble. Either way, it worked out to exactly 0 points.
Wow. The whole night I had to hear it from my friend. I love my buddy, but he had Baker and OBJ.
Oof.
And he needed 60 points, and at one point. Because he had faced Aaron Jones and I don't know, and somebody else, but I forget. But quarterback, it was Wilson. Anyways, his opponent ended up having like 170 points in a non PPR in a standard league, and I just kept getting texts like, I don't think this is gonna work out, man. And I was trying to be encouraging at one point. I'm like, dude, that's not gonna happen.
Brutal.
And that point was like right after. I don't know. It was really early. In fact, I started getting worried when I saw OBJ throw the ball because I'm like, that helps your OBJ stats, but
trick play.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh well. Fun thing, Thomas H has returned. Thank you, sir, so much for tuning in. He says, "Is it just me, or do all the tight ends in the waiver wire really stink this year?" Thomas H, I'm pretty sure that's almost every year. With Darren Waller on a bye this weekend, who do you grab? And Judah Buddha, you texted me earlier with 2 tight ends. So which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, it kind of depends on your league, but in a lot of leagues, Herndon is still on the waiver wire. I'm assuming not in that one. Let's see. I forget who I told you.
Okay, well, I'll just pick it up on this.
No, I got it. So, Ricky Seals-Jones is one I gave you as my number 5. So he was almost in my honorable mentions. But he looked like a monster out there last night, and without David Njoku, I think if the Browns, see, this goes back to I don't know if the Browns are going to be just a terrible. Are they going to start tanking? I don't know. Are they going to fire their coach? I have no idea. But if they turn things around at least a little bit, they're going to need him.
Did you say Ricky Seals-Jones turned it on last night? against San Francisco? You said he did really well. Is that what you just said, or did
No. I just said he looked like a monster. Like he had that he had like one of the first 5 catches or something.
He had
like that.
0 catches for one target.
No. He had like a huge catch at the beginning. You didn't watch the game.
I'm looking at his stats right now.
Let me finish. He had a huge catch that was taken away on review, and like the way he tiptoe in. I mean, look, you got to remember, like everybody on the Browns was like dog sausage last night. Okay, so it wasn't like you're not looking at this game you don't look at the stats. I mean, from the point of view of like who are they going to have to lean on to get some points here, other than OBJ and Chubb? I mean, if they come out in a 2 tight end set again, I think it would help. I think it would help their strategy quite a bit.
One of my favorite things is when Judah is off on some sort of stat. It's almost like he's gotten caught in a lie by his spouse or something, and then he starts trying to like explain it away. And I just like how it goes, where it's like it's almost like, Ricky Seals-Jones, he had 2 touchdowns last night.
I never said that.
And then AJ's like, dude, no, he literally had 0 catches. And Judah's like, no, look, I'm not saying that he had actual touchdowns. I'm just saying like he was in the end zone when the ball was thrown into it.
You saw the game, Jared. You saw the game. You saw that awesome catch, right?
I don't remember. Maybe I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. We'll say that he
all I know is I'm watching the game and I see this. Like I've never really known who Ricky Seals-Jones is. I've always known everybody say he's like a physical specimen. I just see this monster, this huge tattooed monster, like reach up and grab the ball. He didn't get a second foot down. I still think he did, but I was just like, who's this guy? And that was like the only good play I saw from the Browns all night.
Yeah, I remember he blew up in Arizona for like a couple of games in a 3-game stretch or something, like a couple years ago. And so we thought like, oh, and I remember picking him up because it's like, oh, this guy's gonna do something. Yeah, it's anyone other than Chubb right now is just impossible for me to trust with the Browns. I think like one of the big waiver wire pickups this week is going to be Gerald Everett for the Rams. He's had he's coming off of a big game, and then prior to that he had sort of a solid game. And then like Judah said, Herndon's out there still on the wire in a bunch of leagues. I've got several leagues where I'm going to be kind of, I think, desperate this week because it looks like Evan Ingram's probably not going to play for the Giants against the Patriots. So, so I might. There may be places where I'm even looking at like Jason Witten, who's only typically good for about
one catch that goes a lot, like maybe a touchdown.
He's done better. I mean, he gets a few catches, but it's like for almost no yards. It's for like 25 yards, and so basically what you're counting on is get a touchdown, and he hasn't had a touchdown in 3 straight weeks. So it's kind of like, oh, maybe this will be the week. But you're just so dependent on how desperate you are. I'm hoping I don't have to turn to Witten, but we'll see.
That's kind of interesting considering the fact that, like, going back kind of to Seals-Jones and Everett as well. Seals-Jones is playing Seattle, who's been not good against tight ends. They gave up 2 touchdowns to Vance McDonald before playing the Saints and the Cardinals, who don't really have tight ends. And then they went to the Rams where Gerald Everett breaks out for 100 yards. And they have the Browns this week. That looks like a pretty good matchup.
Well, here's the thing is going back to what I was saying about strategy. Like the only time they won so far last week was when they came out in a 2 tight end set, which really helped them establish the run early. And then as they established the run, they're able to break some of these. And it's the same thing the Rams did too with Everett. They're able to break some of these, one of their tight ends off as a receiver. Once they started establishing the run using the under center using the, what is it called when you fake a pass or fake it to the running back?
Play action.
Yeah. So using play action, they're able to, bring the defense in a little bit.
Interesting. And then Gerald Everett, his matchup is against San Francisco, who hasn't really given. Okay. They played OJ Howard. That's not really anything. They played Eifert, who caught a touchdown but only had 9 yards all game.
Well, I think the thing that kind of scares me about Everett is, he's really just had that one big game. He had a decent week 2 weeks ago, but I wonder if, after watching San Francisco last night, are they probably not going to use their tight ends kept in more in order to slow down that pass rush? So he's going to be, like the Yahoo analysts and people like that are, talking him up as the big pick, as the big pickup. I'm probably going to go out and try to get him in some leagues just because my guy is out this week. But otherwise, I would need to see, a little more consistent production before I was really trying to, sacrifice somebody on my bench for him.
Intriguing. So
yeah, I'm not happy about the waiver wire in general.
Yeah,
it's getting to that time of year. It's it's getting to that time of year where the first 5 weeks, there's guys that are popping out that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy, he's for real. I could pick him up. And then now it's just all of a sudden it's just a wasteland where everyone is gone. So
especially the bigger the league, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so I know, Judah Buddha, that you've had those are your dual tight ends, Thomas H. Gerald Everett and Ricky Seals-Jones. Jared, you haven't gone yet.
I had Darren Fells too.
Okay, him too. Well, Jared hasn't gone yet, so we're going to let him talk. Jared, do you have a waiver wire pickup for us this week in this barren wasteland?
So yeah, I wrote down some for each position. So I'll say, if you're desperate at running back this week, if you've got some guys on a bye or you, I don't know, maybe have some guys lost to injury or whatever. Normally I would not advocate for this, but if you're desperate enough, you might want to pick up Adrian Peterson. They're playing the Dolphins, so the matchup is already as good as it gets. And their interim coach said he felt like they didn't run the ball enough before under Jay Gruden. Now, this is risky because, Adrian Peterson was literally getting 18 yards, 25 yards. So you're going to need a significant bump in terms of what he was doing. So, I would say you have to be pretty desperate. But if you are, you want to roll the dice on him, I think there are worse options out there.
Intriguing play. Adrian Peterson, who literally hasn't rushed for over 40 yards this year, but they're playing Miami. So
that's the thing. That's what, I had mine listed from 5 to 1, 5 being, my least. Ricky Seals-Jones, I'm like, you might as well give it a try. To 1, I told AJ it is a tie between AP and I'll reveal my true number 1 later on.
Okay.
So, what are you going to talk about next then?
Well, I'll just say real quick on the flip side of that matchup is Kenyon Drake's available in a third of my leagues or something like that. And so I would feel much better about Kenyon Drake, but so if he's there, you might want to grab him, but AP I think is available in, 10 plus out of my 17 leagues. He's available in most, whereas Drake is available in maybe a third or so.
Yeah. I thought about putting Drake on there. I just couldn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Kenyon Drake was super frustrating for me last year. He was the Anquan. I always call it Anquan Bolton because he was the most inconsistent player I'd ever had. And Drake literally would go 4, 20, 4, 15, 0, 31, 2, 2, 17. And at one point I was like, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. And So,
well, there is. But you did have some good games from him last year, right? Like you had that huge game where he jumped over Gronk for the touchdown.
That was week 17. No one plays that.
Yeah, I don't like inconsistent players. I want a guy at least double-digit points with a little upside. So normally, again, I'm only throwing out AP and Drake if you're desperate here. This is just like a 1 week thing.
Well, so they're on by when this week or next week?
The Dolphins.
No, or not for a while.
I have not been carefully checking the Dolphins bye week.
Sorry, Dolphins were on by last week. So there is a narrative here. They actually dropped Kalen Ballage down in their depth chart where Mark Walton is the new number 2. Thank goodness Kalen Ballage couldn't find his.
He was trash.
He was pure trash. There is a narrative here where they come out of their bye and they're like, I don't know, like I couldn't make it work in my head, but I could almost imagine something where they're like, you know what, we're not going to tank. We're gonna actually do something. And you know what? Drake, you're the one to pull us through. Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the only reason I would pick up Drake.
See, that's not the reason I would pick him up. I would pick him up if the narrative was, okay, we're coming out of the bye. We're going to tank harder than ever. We're trading you. So that would be the only thing, is if somehow
where would he go that you'd be excited about?
I don't know. I honestly, probably nowhere that I would be excited about. It would probably have to be, some situation where there was an injury to a contending team and they, needed someone to come in and fill in. Like there's really not anywhere off the top of my head that I'd be like, oh, they really need a running back in this.
Tampa, maybe.
What happened? What about your guy Ronald Jones? Or don't tell me you're like bailing out on your guy Ronald Jones here.
I'm not bailing on Rojo, but I'm afraid the team doesn't like him as much as I do.
Yeah.
Well, he has been getting the carries though.
Yeah, but they still keep naming
Barber,
the Barber of Seville, man. They keep naming him the starter.
Yeah. There's no, I mean, Drake it would literally just be a flyer just on the off chance that he got traded. I don't think there's any point this season where Miami gets it together. If you put him in your lineup, you got to do it just against a bad team and hope that, he breaks off a big, run or something like that. Although, again, they do get the Giants in the fantasy playoffs. So who knows?
Ryan N has a little debate going on.
Time out.
Yep, go ahead. Yep.
Sorry. I just want to say thank you for coming back, Ryan. I'm amazed that you came back after some of the picks that we told you last.
I thought we had a pretty
I thought we did good. What do we do?
We put out. I remember I don't remember who had the questions, but I remember we recommended Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, that was good. But we also, I think Cortland Sutton was our only great one.
No, and I think AJ both recommended Julian Edelman.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, not that that's that.
Start him, sit him that week.
Yeah,
that's true. Actually, Julian Edelman. If he went with Julian Edelman, I think he said, though, during the thing that he was going to sit Julian Edelman.
Well, then he should have listened to us.
Yes.
As you should have.
Absolutely.
I did start him in one league, but...
Okay, well, Ryan N has a little debate going on with himself. He's debating whether to pick up Chris Herndon or Hunter Henry this week. This is an interesting one.
We told you to pick up Herndon last week.
I don't even remember what I said on that. Oh, I think I said on that one was that if he needed, if you need a guy right away, then yeah, Herndon's the guy. But otherwise maybe Henry, because the Chargers are weird this year. Like Phillip Rivers and that pass game is just like, I don't know what's going on with it, but
one of the things is they're all dying over there.
Yeah, but I mean, even when like Mike Williams is playing, like he finally had something resembling like a passable game, this past week, and that was really just on like a ton of volume. Keenan Allen's had some blow up games, but Henry's been out. The offensive line hasn't been great, and the Chargers are just a big disappointment. But like I like Henry if I trust Henry more if he's back and healthy. But when is he ever healthy? I don't know. I mean, but if he's your second guy, I think there's some upside there. But man, thinking back to like that Jets schedule later in the year, like that looks pretty good too. So.
And Ryan, Mr. Jeter, Ryan says he forgets what he says an hour ago. How's he going to remember?
Good. You're going to love
that
our
might
advice.
Be the best for you. Interesting. So, Jeter, what do you think between Herndon and Henry?
I mean, it's Herndon for sure. We have no idea what's going to go on with Henry. I mean, like, remember last year, everybody was like, oh, Henry's coming back for like 4 weeks, man. And when he finally came back, it was like, meh. And even this year, during his start, he was meh, if you ask me. So, I mean, there's a lot of hype surrounding Henry, but I've never seen him actually follow, come through with anything, other than hype.
Well, his first season, he did put up a decent 8 touchdowns the first time he was here.
His first season was like 3 years ago.
It was. Intriguing. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
No, I have really nothing interesting to add to that. I think they're both, just kind of they're one of them is worth picking up. Like who's going to have the better season, between Henry's health and everything else. I don't have a strong feeling on that.
Herndon is kind of a question mark. I mean,
Gase, the coach, said he's got to like really kind of look at him before he activates him back to the roster. And I think it's Ryan Griffin that they've had, who came over from the Texans, that's been kind of taking all those snaps. And so Herndon's been gone for a while. How quickly is he going to work back in? I mean, like, to me, it's just. I mean, either one of those guys, I can't really make a strong argument for one over the other between Herndon and Henry.
Intriguing.
Would you pick AJ or Jared? Would you pick anybody up over them? Like Seals Jones or Fells?
No. There's nobody else out there.
What if what's his name from the Panthers? Blondie.
Olsen?
Yeah, what if Olsen's on your waiver wire?
Interesting.
Olsen's? I don't think Olsen's on any of mine. I mean, I've got him on some rosters as a number 2 tight end.
He hasn't done nothing in 2 weeks. I bet somebody's dropping him.
Well, the funny thing is, he's like, he's kind of like the Kenyon Drake of tight ends, where he's either going to give you like, okay, this is his stat line over the past 4 weeks, 14, 22.5, 1.50. So, I mean, he's literally going to give you, 15 to 25 points or 0 to 2 points. So,
that's not that abnormal for a tight end. I mean, right? That's what you kind of get. You either get a touchdown or you don't with tight ends.
I don't know if I would say that. I mean, the game has changed a little bit to where you get guys like, Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, even like Hooper or Waller that, you can count on for 8 targets a game, and so I don't know if that used to be true of tight ends, and it's true of a lot of teams, but I think there's some options out there that you can kind of count on for targets.
Interesting. So I actually have a question for you guys. And this is one of the people I might be picking up this week in a couple leagues if I got someone to buy. I know y'all were talking about Adrian Peterson could be a possible pickup, but for the almost 40% of other leagues out there, Chris Thompson's still on the waiver wire. And he's been producing more than Adrian Peterson has. So what do you guys think about that?
For sure. If Chris Thompson's out there, I don't think he's on the wire in any of mine.
Wow.
Let's double check real quick. Yeah. So in my 17 leagues, he's not on there in any of them. He's owned in, well, he's only owned in 64%. I would have thought it would have been higher, but yeah, I mean, he's a guy that you can count on for, typically like, 8 to 12 points and hope he gets you a touchdown or something. So, yeah.
Well, that's assuming, like, if it's PPR, full PPR, I'd pick him up for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would for half too, but
maybe for half, but for standard, I would just ignore him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Interesting. Also, Ryan says Greg Olsen is a trigger for Bucks fans.
He makes a good point. Like, are they playing? They're playing the Bucks, right?
They're playing the Bucks. Yeah.
They're playing Tampa.
Yeah. In the past, Greg Olsen has gone off for huge games against them.
Yeah.
I do just have to say, Greg, if you're watching, we Chicago Bears fans still miss you. We wish you were here. Thank you for your service for us.
I had forgotten that. I had forgotten he was with the Bears. Yeah.
I totally forgot.
That's right.
Wow. Yeah. We miss him dearly. It's maybe just me, but
yeah. I remember. Yeah, that's right.
Oh boy. Judah Buddha, anyone else on your large bucket list of waiver wire pickups you wanted to talk about? I've made banners for most of them.
5 deep. So my number 4 is Ricky Seals-Jones, Benny Snell, Darren Fells. They're kind of interchangeable as my 3, 4, 5. I really think Benny Snell has shown a little. He's caught my eye a couple of times, and now with Samuels out, he may get. And because, I mean, it's not like Connor is like the picture of health. So Benny Snell would be, I think, would be an important guy to pick up. Could get. I mean, if you're desperate in some of the leagues, like I'm just scraping the bottom of the barrel. It's like Benny Snell or some, like Armstead. I feel like I get more. I could get way more out of Benny Snell even this week with
really?
Connor being healthy.
That's a really interesting one, considering the fact that he's literally only gotten 6 carries the entire year.
Well, yeah, because Samuels has been in there.
So you think he'll actually be a factor next week?
I think so. Interesting.
Jared, what do you think?
I mean, if I had Samuels, I might pick him up as I don't know if I'd pick him up as a handcuff because Samuels is only supposed to be out a month or so. Unless you're in a deeper league, I don't have a whole lot of interest in Benny Snell. I think he's not quite the same. Like Samuels, they kind of used him and Connor. They're just different running backs, and so they used him a little bit differently. I would not anticipate Snell would get the same kind of volume that Samuels did, but we'll see.
I think kind of the interesting thing I've noticed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they're honestly the most injury-prone team in the league right now.
No, wait.
They're down. Hear me out. They're down to their 3rd quarterback. They're getting down to their 3rd running back. Dante Moncrief's done nothing. James Washington has been banged up for a bunch of weeks. That's basically your entire offense.
They're still second to the Chargers because the Chargers are losing their offense and their defense.
They're not quite their entire offense because Allen's still technically there. Rivers is still there. Eckler's still there. Gordon is back. You have all the main pieces of your offense there. In Pittsburgh, you got Juju and who else?
Well,
that's literally it.
Juju and Connor are the only main pieces of their
completely banged up every week.
It's an injury dance off between the Chargers and Steelers.
Well, really, like we don't pay attention to them because they've still been doing well. But like, I guess an honorable mention would be the Chiefs, who lost Tyreek Hill. Sammy Watkins is hurt always. Damian Williams was out. LaShawn McCoy's ankles are always terrible. So they. Yeah.
What happened to him last week?
To Mahomes?
No. Well, we should probably talk about that, but no. To Shady. Like he just disappeared.
They said he
the game.
They said he had a fumble. So I don't know if that was part of it or what, but yeah, that Chiefs backfield is it's interesting. You know, I've got a few shares of Damian Williams. It's funny. Like a couple of people in a couple of leagues, people just dropped Damian Williams. And I picked him up.
I kind of wish I had.
And so. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, well, he's going to come back, and I think he's probably going to go back to at least a 50% split. So, yeah, I don't know, but they've had some problems. So speaking of, if you're desperate at receiver, I'll run through a few guys here. So again, like the Chiefs, you don't know what you're going to get. They've got all these weapons that Mahomes can throw to. And then, we'd had Hardman and Robinson, who had kind of been the guys while Tyreek Hill was out. And then all of a sudden, Byron Pringle comes out of nowhere. So he's, I guess a possibility. I don't know how Sammy Watkins is, how long he's going to be out. The Tates, two different Tates, Golden Tate with the Giants. Because Sterling Shepard has another concussion, and this is his second concussion this year, so he's probably going to miss. Well, they've got a Thursday night game, and then but maybe he comes back for the week after that. But I think he could miss multiple weeks. And then Auden Tate for the Bengals. Ross is down. AJ Green still doesn't look like he's going to be back anytime super soon. The Bengals are going to have to throw the ball to somebody besides Tyler Boyd. And then,
I mean, they might not.
they might not. And Andy Dalton might just stand there and get, pile drivered into the ground. But, and then, okay. So as another, like, if you're desperate, play, we're going to go back to this Dolphins Redskins game here, where we're going to go to the wide receiver side, where Preston Williams is getting a decent amount of targets, like 7-8 targets every week. Yes, the Dolphins are terrible, but the Redskins are also terrible, and so something has to kind of give there. So if you're desperate at wide receiver, that's probably going to have to be a deeper league, because man, there are a lot of wide receivers out there. Although in one league, like it just like breaks a weird way to where I've got guys out and on bye, and I need a flex. And so even though it's just a 10-team league, it's just like the perfect storm where I might be looking at starting, in one league, somebody like Preston Williams at flex. So, so that's something to consider. And then I think just to kind of round out mine, if you're needing a quarterback, again, this is not someone that I would normally advocate for, but Kirk Cousins is playing against the Eagles. The Eagles have a good run defense, and they've got a terrible pass defense, and Cousins is at home. So I think he could get you in the neighborhood of, maybe 20 points. That they're just the Eagles pass defense is just that bad. I mean, Case Keenum in week 1, if I can pull it up while we're talking here, but Case Keenum in week 1, I think had, let's see, was it high 20s or 27? Yeah. 27 at Philly, 27.2 in week 1. He had 380 yards and 3 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers threw for over 400 yards against him, and Aaron Rodgers is now like a terrible fantasy play. So it's nothing to do with Kirk Cousins. It's just the fact that Philly's run defense is pretty good. So I think they're going to slow down Cook, and their pass defense is atrocious. Yeah. So I think this is one of the rare times I would say, yeah, give Kirk Cousins a shot.
I think to add on top of that too, I mean, last week he was getting a lot of criticism for his play and everything. And then he comes out and does something, and he actually got over 20 points in fantasy, which was the first time he got over 15 points in fantasy.
Yep.
So, yeah.
But that was thanks to Thielen speaking up, though. And
Right.
I mean, look, I think it's a good play for this week.
Yeah.
But,
And that's all I'm saying.
Kirk Cousin, dude. Like, I like the guy as far as I like his optimism. He's a good Christian man, but I don't know, man. I'd rather play. I'm trying to think if who's the Cardinals.
Kyler
Murray.
Yeah, I'd rather play
sure.
Kyler Murray.
Sure. Yeah.
I think Kyler Murray's out there.
Not for me. I don't
What
think
about Minshew? Would you play Minshew? Minshew walk?
I would not play Minshew against the Saints.
I think I would.
A lot of people, a lot of the analysts are advocating for Minshew against the Saints. Man, I don't know. He's been consistent, 18, 16, 17, 16, 21.
Against difficult defenses, too.
Against pretty difficult defenses, yeah. But I would just be, and he's got good weapons. Like now, I'm regretting not picking up DJ Shark in leagues, but he was doing a lot of just like 5 targets, 3 catches or something like that, and getting a touchdown, but now he's had a second blow up game, so now I wish I hadn't. But I think. Maybe Minshew's the safer play. I don't know, but the Saints pass defense has gotten better in the last couple weeks. Like Lattimore went from not guarding anyone to just like locking down Amari Cooper and Mike Evans. Mike Evans didn't have a catch. Last week.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I feel better about Cousins. But I think though he's probably like lower floor, higher ceiling than Minshew, whereas Minshew's probably like the safer play.
Interesting. Also, we got another question from Ryan, and thank you for your patience. Thomas, his name is Pringle. Get over it.
Oh,
I have to say, I almost put him into the people to pick up, and I couldn't because his name's Pringle. I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
That just makes me want him more. Like, you can just be like, I just popped open a can of Pringles on my opponent this week,
Oh my goodness.
That's
Golden.
true.
You're missing out, Thomas. Ryan N once again back at it says, should I drop Marquez Valdez-Scantling and stash his second defense? Ooh, Judith, you're the Packers fan.
I actually have this. I have to make this decision because I don't want to drop the Bills. And I was actually looking at MVS to drop, and I can't bring myself to do it. I think I'm dropping DK Metcalf instead. I don't know. I got to make a decision between DK Metcalf and MVS. I don't know.
I don't feel like this should be that hard of a choice. So 4 out of 5 weeks, he hasn't touched 7.5 points. He had his one blow up game, 99 yards and a touchdown against Denver. But every other week, like he just can't. Like basically, it's like he has to get a deep ball, and he's not that great apparently of a deep ball receiver. Like there was a lot of talk about him ahead of the season, like, he had been working with, I think Randy Moss. I think it was Randy Moss.
Yeah.
And he had some games last year where like he looked really good, but
I'll drop him.
Yeah. For me, if it's a choice between him and Metcalf, something like that,
Metcalf's kind of the same thing.
No, Metcalf has been much more consistent than MVS has.
No, he has not been much more consistent.
MVS has only broken 10 points once. DK Metcalf has broken.
DK Metcalf had 0 2 games ago.
1.1.
Okay,
yeah,
1.1.
I think the upside with Metcalf, if I had to drop one or the other, I would. For me, it would definitely be MVS because Metcalf is a different receiver. Like he's not, he can get a big play, but he's not like solely dependent on it. Whereas like they're kind of using him as a red zone option too. Now like typically Disley's been getting more, but DK's got a couple of touchdowns. His volume is not great, but yeah, I mean for me it would be him over Scantling. I would keep Metcalf.
Yeah, I vehemently agree. If I'm gonna like double do this, like Judah Buddha, no, I would not drop DK Metcalf. Absolutely not. Absolutely.
You're gonna be regretting it when this week MVS blows up. DK Metcalf has 1.1.
That's the thing. DK Metcalf is right now still doing better in terms of touchdowns and in terms of yardage. Not so much targets. However, MVS.
Oh, did we lose him again?
I had to kick him out. It was getting too rowdy.
Well, just to continue his point there, yeah, I mean, I think that's just something that you live with in terms of like MVS blowing up again. Like if he gets you 19 points once every 5 games, and he's turning in 2, 3, 6, 7 the other times. I mean, most of the time he's just not okay. AJ's back, so I'll let you. I was sorry. I was picking up your point while you were gone.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, just like that 1 out of every 5 games for me is just not doing it. So
plus, let's just say later down the line, you need to trade for someone before deadline's up. Metcalf's going to look a lot better on the track record than Valdez-Scantling is. So Ryan, yes, I would definitely say. I would pick up that second defense, especially if your bye week's coming up soon.
It also depends who's your first defense. It's probably like the Bears.
Yeah, assuming it's someone good, so you can get that second defense. Yeah, we're probably gonna wrap up soon. So Judah Buddha, do you want to go ahead and give your?
My last one. I guess my last 2
spotlights on you.
Gerald Everett, but I'm not a big fan of Gerald Everett. Chase Edmonds, honorable mention. My last big one would be so Chase Edmonds, yes, would have been my number 1, but instead, I think I told you I really wanted to go with can't think of his name. I'm gonna have to look it up.
What's his name? Adrian. Wait, no, you twisted to Adrian Peterson.
But then I said tied with DD Westbrook. I think this is gonna be a big breakout game for Dede this week, mainly because the Saints do really well against, or it looks like at this point they're doing very well. What's the corner's name?
Marshall Lattimore.
Yeah.
Lattimore looks like he does really good against tall, athletic guys like Evans. Shut Evans down completely. I think he's going to be on, the new candy, Mr. DJ Chark Doo, and I think he's going to do his best to shut down DJ Chark. Meanwhile, it's a good opportunity to hit Dede Westbrook in the slot, because that tends to be a place that's vulnerable for the Saints, is in the slot. And Dede, I think, is skilled, not as big and physically gifted as Chark, but he's faster than Chark, and he's as skilled, and he's a great route runner. Perfect for some easy, closer slot type routes.
And there you have it. King DDD is
Judah, and he's on the waiver wire almost everywhere.
41%. So
because he hasn't done anything, but that's why.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he started to do more last week and
he had 11 targets last week.
Yeah.
I liked him coming into the year, and then I don't know. It's interesting. You wonder how things would have been if Foles had stayed healthy. But yeah, Dede's now that you mention it, I mean, his targets, 9 targets, 6 targets, 11 targets. He hasn't had a touchdown since week 1. But
I think this is his chance. If he's going to get a touchdown in the next couple of weeks, this is the week to do it.
Well, I don't know. He's got Cincy next week, so that's a pretty good opportunity too.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But see, that's the thing is that Chark is going to dominate Cincy. He's going to destroy them. Whereas I think the reason I'm saying this week is particularly good is because I do think they're going to shut down Chark with Lattimore.
True. They, of course, you still got to think they have Conley there too. You never know when he's going to pop up. Maybe so. What I'm curious to see is Minshew just the guy? Like when Foles comes back, has Minshew just taken that starting job?
That's a good question.
It's hard to make the argument on why he shouldn't take the starting job, except Nick Foles' contract. But
I don't think that matters too much to the coach.
Not as much, but I don't know. It's just it's hard to say a lot with rookie quarterbacks, especially since what happens if, say, he doesn't do well the next 3 weeks, right? We're all going to be like, oh, Nick Foles absolutely has to come back. It's like Kyle Allen blew up in game 1, and then he's done not much over the last 2 games. I think it's hard to tell at this point.
Yeah, he's not making mistakes. He's
solid.
He's no interceptions since week 1. He 3 games in a row, like he had the big blow up game against Carolina last week, but like 3 games in a row, it was like almost identical stat line. His completions were 23, 20, 19. His yards were 213, 204, 213. His touchdowns were 1, 2, 2, and so, I mean, I don't know. But I thought about that, and really, it's not like as much of a question for him because not that many people are going to be playing, him in their offensive or in their fantasy lineup. But if you've got Leonard Fournette, then is that going to disrupt things with him, or most of all, like DJ Chark? I'm actually thinking of like trying to go out and trade for Chark in some leagues, and that's really why that question popped into my mind. Was like, well, what if Foles comes back and Foles is throwing more to D.D. Westbrook or whatever? Because some people were, because a lot of people just still don't believe in Chark. He's on their bench. And I didn't pick him up because I didn't really believe in him. But so I'm wondering, like, is this a good time to buy low on him? And actually, one of the things I saw was like Brad Evans was putting out a list of like people who he had seen OBJ traded for in, straight up one-on-ones, and one of them was DJ Chark.
Whoa. I mean, Chark scored a touchdown in every game except 1.
And he's had 2 out of 5 have been like 140-yard games. And like he just like, it's not fluky. Like he legitimately looks great. Yeah. So my concern is always just like, the quarterbacks he's tied to, and is Minshew going to turn back into a pumpkin at some point? I mean, not that he's really been a pumpkin, but like he was drafted as a pumpkin. He was a 6th round pick. So you thought you were getting a pumpkin seed, and you got like, I don't know, this exotic flower or something. Yeah. So
I wasn't sure what metaphor you were going for there.
Yeah.
I mean, from a fantasy perspective, we're looking at stats, but the coach is looking at other things. And I think one thing I see out there on the field is he brings a certain excitement to the team, to the fans, that I love Nick, but not the same kind of excitement and intrigue.
No, Nick Foles looks like he would be your human resources guy at your company, whereas like Gardner Minshew would be the guy who would be getting sent to human resources every week. I won't say what he would be getting sent for, but anyway.
Okay. All right. We got to wrap this up, but Thomas H has one last question for us. He has the Monsters of the Midway's defense on a bye. So who would you pick up this weekend? Carolina or San Francisco? We got to go fast like Sonic. Mr. Judah, who you got?
That's a tough one.
Dead silence for half a second.
Carolina.
Against Tampa.
Yeah. I think their pass rush is coming on.
Jared?
Man,
time out. Also keep in mind 2 guys are out on the on Tampa's offensive line.
Ooh.
So I think that'll be important. So that's why I say Carolina.
Yeah. If it was a season long, who do you want? I'd have to think about it a little bit harder. But just for this week, like, man, it's hard for me to recommend playing anybody against the Rams. Whereas with the Bucks, you don't know what you're going to get for sure with Jameis Winston week to week. He could ball out, or he could turn the ball over. So for the fact that the 49ers are playing the Rams, I'd go with Panthers against the Bucks. Yeah.
Same here. We're just going to get a consensus. The Rams have only scored under 27 points once this year. Definitely go Carolina. And I have a question for you guys to end things off.
Before you do,
yes, okay. Yep.
Ryan, why doesn't just play the Chargers? You don't have to drop them.
No, I think he's saying for their bye week later down the line.
Oh, for their
bye is coming up soon. Yeah, their bye week is coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it's not, like, I mean, I regularly, if I have space, will find two good defenses, and then that way you can alternate them or something like that. So yeah. All right. So what's your question?
So I kind of noticed this last week after I invested so much into that Rams Seahawks games. I noticed that for Stardom Siddums, we don't get to talk about Thursday because we talk on Saturday.
Oh, true.
Really quick, Thursday Night Lights. Giants and Patriots are playing this week. Who should you start?
None of your Giants.
None of your Giants. No one.
That's
and who should you start for your Patriots? Everyone.
Wow. Interesting. I especially since Dorsett may not play, I think Edelman's going to have a big game this week.
If he's healthy, yeah, I think so.
I think this will be I gambled on I'd benched Sony Michel for a while, and then I threw him in against Washington because I thought, all right, if he's not going to score against Washington, and he did, he had 19 points or something like that. Burkhead was out. So that helped, and they actually got him involved in the passing game a little bit. So, so maybe it's a short week. I'm hoping Burkhead's out again, and I may roll him out again.
Now, keep in mind, I don't believe this, but this is a spot where now they are just too banged up, so I can't imagine how it works. But this is a spot where the Giants come in and upset teams. I remember, I remember last year they were depleted. They had nobody. Everybody was injured, and they came in and they socked Denver in the mouth. Just like
this,
they beat them.
It's only if they put Eli Manning back in, because Eli's got that magic against Tom Brady. That's the only way it's happening. If it's Daniel Jones, then you need to put an over/under on Patriots defensive defensive touchdowns at 1.5, and I'm not sure which way that's going to go, because I think they're going to get one defensive touchdown at least off.
Oh man!
Wow. So long story short, it's all going to be Patriots. I think we can agree on that.
Can we talk about Josh Gordon though? Is he just been hurt this whole time? Is he just done? What do we do with Josh Gordon?
Yeah, that's been a weird. Well, it's not really that weird. I think we've just all got in our minds, really the last time that we really saw Josh Gordon for an extended period of time was that season, 6 years ago. How long ago was it? Where
been a while.
2013, 2015, I don't know, where he was just a monster for the Browns, and we kept thinking okay, he's with Tom Brady now. If he flies straight, he's gonna just get things back together again. But it's just not. I don't know. It's just not happening for him. I mean, he's solid. Well, actually, he's not that solid. It's
I own him a couple places, and it's been tough, man. It's been slogging.
I think it probably says a lot that they were so quickly, unquestioningly willing to bring Antonio Brown in. I think Gordon is just. I think we're just trying to reach back and we're thinking about what he was years ago, and I think he's just kind of not exactly a guy, a little bit better than an average player, but just apart from that, if you're not. He doesn't have a touchdown yet, does he?
He has one. Game one against Pittsburgh.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So he has one touchdown. He's got a 73-yard and an 83-yard game. And other than that, it's been 19, 46, 59. I think he's just a wide receiver 3 type guy. And I'm not sure.
Not even high wide.
No. And what at this point, he's had some time with Tom Brady now. Like, what at this point is going to change that all of a sudden he's going to get significantly better? So, I think he's just a guy.
Judah Buddha, got any quick things on Gordon?
No, that's what I was asking. I think the only thing that could change is scheming. I think Belichick is known for not wanting to show his cards early in the season. It could be the second half of the season they completely change their approach. They go heavy Michelle, and as soon as they start to come in on Michelle, long one to Gordon. That's the only thing I can envision.
I think it's more likely, if anything, probably that his fantasy value goes down, because I'm going to say, like, there's already rumors about them possibly trading for AJ Green or Stephon Diggs.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, you think about, like, they didn't have to trade. They didn't have to give up anything to get Brown. And so it's not like they traded something away and that failed, and so now they're down a draft pick or something. They didn't have to trade anything to get him. So again, if they were so willing to go in on him, I think they'd be willing to give up, second round pick, or, maybe a first. I don't know, because you think about how good that defense is. Like, they're looking at this going, man, our defense is really good. Now, granted, they haven't played really anybody, so it's hard to kind of gauge exactly how good they are. But I think they're thinking, like, man, we have got a great shot at another Super Bowl. Oh, yeah. We've got a good defense. We just need a playmaker. We don't have Gronk anymore. Edelman stays hurt a lot. We need a playmaker. I would be shocked if they don't go out and trade for somebody the way they've approached this season.
One question, though, I think I have going into Thursday is playing all these cake matchups. Is it making at least the GOAT? Can't think of his name. Brady.
No,
Come on, tell me you're kidding.
Is it making Tom Brady?
You've got to get a brain scan. You have got to get some deep brain scan to make sure everything's okay up there.
Yeah. You need to write all your stuff down beforehand and just put Post-it notes all over your computer.
But I am going into Thursday thinking, is it taking the edge off of Brady a little bit? Because lately I've been seeing him make some crazy throws.
No.
Almost getting beat by the Bills, and then even last week is who they play last? Was it the Bills they played last week?
No, Redskins. Sorry,
Redskins. Even against the Redskins, I thought they were going to squish them.
AJ, do you want to take this one first, or
I would like to?
We don't have to answer it. I think let's. Just
I want to answer, but
absolutely.
but AJ can go first. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, here's my thing. Every year we go through this circle of the Patriots have one or two bad games.
Thank you.
Everyone's like, Belichick is washed up. Brady's washed up. Like, they struggled against the Chiefs last year. Everyone's like, oh, they're not the juggernaut they used to be. And what happens? He goes to the Super Bowl again.
I'm not saying
the Patriots are fallible.
I'm not saying they're not going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yes,
I'm just saying, playing all these really easy matchups, it can't help.
I don't think it hurts, though. I mean, come on. Brady's had cakes in the AFC East for at least 4 years, right? And every year they always struggle against an actual good team. There's a good match, and then they lose to Miami every year for some reason. It always happens. Let's not go for this again, Jared. Please, I need a rest.
Basically, I'm just going to echo exactly what you said. It happens every year. We've been doing this every year for, I think, at least 5 years, if not more, where they have a terrible game. Brady looks terrible. And so it's like, I remember, the one that really sticks out in my mind was one year they were playing in Kansas City, and it was before Mahomes. It was while Alex Smith was still there.
I remember that one too.
I think Jimmy G came in for him, and everyone was convinced that this was the end for Brady, that, he might not even start another game for him, all this stuff. And then they come back. I mean, Tom Brady, the competitive fire of Tom Brady is just Like I hate the Patriots, but I respect the hell out of Tom Brady because he has just got this like never ending chip on his shoulder. They were talking,
but I think that's quelled by the fact that he's playing easy. Like he's just has had no challenge this year.
He's
had no challenge this year.
The man invited Antonio Brown into his home. He was so desperate to win another Super Bowl that he let this lunatic into his family home in order to try to just get him on like a straight and narrow path to help them win a Super Bowl.
It's much more subtler than the Super Bowl. I'm talking purely fantasy. I see some games in our near future. It's probably not going to be New York, but I see some games coming up where the whole team has sort of been lulled into this like easy pattern and they get hit in the mouth. And we have one of those games that everybody says that Brady's done. And then he comes back with a vengeance for the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. But I think for fantasy, I think we should be looking for a game coming up in which Brady just melts down and the whole team, they lose a game that they should win.
Maybe that's at Houston. But I mean, if you just look at their schedule, like it's amazing, and a lot of this comes from playing in the AFC East.
Yes.
It's all. But and I guess they just matched up with. Okay, so they matched up with the NFC East this year, and so that's how they got Washington and the Giants and stuff like that. But you look at their schedule, and you're like, how did the Super Bowl champion is supposed to get a tough schedule, and there is literally just you look down through there and there is just no defense. It
feels rigged, doesn't it?
It kind of does, yeah. So like Tom Brady though, like he's gonna have a down game eventually, and late in the season it seems like over the last few years, every year late in the season, like he does not put up good fantasy numbers like those last handful of regular season games. So I would be hesitant to trust him, although he does get the Bengals in the first week of the fantasy playoffs. So, I think if you've got him in there, he went undrafted in a lot of teams, in a lot of leagues. Last year, he did not have a good fantasy season last year. So yeah.
We're getting to that.
They should hire. What should they hire Judah for?
That's what I want to know.
We're about to get to that real quick. Rockout says pick up Kirk Cousins versus Stafford or Minshew. Matthew Stafford and Cousins play next week. This week Cousins has the Eagles. But definitely.
No, he's saying who would you pick up? Who would you pick up? Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, or Minshew?
All right.
We just talked about that. Actually, we didn't talk about Stafford though.
We didn't. Well, but he's playing. The reason I didn't talk about him was because he's playing the Packers pass defense. Although the Packers pass defense didn't look that great against the Cowboys, but
can the Lions O-line hold the Packers though?
Yeah. For me, it's go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to know what you say.
I'm gonna gamble here and say Cousins. It depends. I mean, again, Minshew is probably safer. Like if you're projected to win by a fair amount, Minshew's probably safer. But Kirk Cousins against the Eagles, just everybody's torching the Eagles except for like the Jets' backup quarterback or something. But otherwise, I have trouble rolling with Stafford against the Packers, and Minshew, solid. But I think Kirk Cousins.
Who's Minshew playing?
The Saints. So see, that's that. Like the Saints have a good front, and Lattimore's doing well. That's just a little, and I feel like Minshew is due for a down game too. Yeah. So I just because of the matchup and because Adam Thielen is basically like Kirk Cousins, I will murder you if you don't throw me the ball. Like I feel a little bit better about Cousins for this matchup.
Yeah, I second that.
I go with Matthew Stafford. I'm outnumbered, but I don't know. I mean, this could be another wash where it's like 2 points difference between all three of these guys. and all you got from all of them was 10 points, It's like, but Stafford, the thing I like about Stafford is he has more weapons than any of the other two guys.
Wait, the Cousins? Diggs, Thielen, Dalvin Cook?
No,
they don't pass. Cousins, they don't pass.
But the weapons are there. Your argument was the weapons, and the weapons are there.
Well, okay, well, the weapons like Galladay, you've got
Galladay, carry on,
Hawkinson, you've got
Marvin Jones.
Who's Marvin Jones? Like, I think they've got a lot of deep threats. Whereas Cousins, he's got.
He scored 2 touchdowns last week.
I think their offensive line too. I think Matthew Stafford's offensive line is better. Keeping him safer. Whereas Cousins could be on the ground the whole time.
Okay, interesting. Rock out. You're welcome. The consensus pretty much says Cousins, but Stafford, you wouldn't be horrible if someone takes him from you on the waiver. So Thomas H, this is probably going to wrap us up, says he thinks the Washington Redskins should hire Judah Buddha.
But for what though?
He says for head coach, definitely. Intriguing. Judah Buddha. The show is yours. You have a 30-second rant. I'm literally timing you. Go.
Thomas H is just saying that because they have a history of picking up harebrained coaches that do wild things, and amazing things. And yes, my fire burns bright, but it does also burn out fast.
That was literally exactly 30 seconds. Well done.
I will say, there's a rumor about them possibly getting Mike Tomlin.
Not happening. No, please no.
If it was a choice between Judah and Mike Tomlin, I think they should go with Judah. And that's not necessarily to say that he's going to be better. It's just they're going to have a lower financial commitment and they're going to be willing to cut ties sooner, whereas the results won't be dramatically different with Tomlin, but they're going to be paying him more money. And they're gonna do what Pittsburgh has done, is like keep him around for a bunch of like 9 and 7 seasons. So yeah, between Judah and Mike Tomlin, go Judah. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I just love all your guys' support. Thank you.
Washington, go get Judah Buddha. You need this man. This is the definition of boom or bust, and the Redskins are already a total bust. So this is your time to boom. You need Judah Buddha right now, and that would be the end. But Rockout's got a quick question.
But he needs to go to an organization where the players have enough self-confidence that their egos won't be hurt by their head coach never being able to remember their names.
Everyone, he's going to have muscle hamster number 1, muscle hamster number 2.
It's true. I have nicknames for all of them.
Oh, boy. Rock out. He got a trade offer for Hopkins, for Juju, Sony, and Jacobs. Wow.
Don't do it.
Oh, my goodness. And he also has Amari Cooper and Cooper Kupp after that, though.
Don't do it.
All right, Jared.
I'd need to know who his running backs are. Because depending on, rock out if you've got time to like type in who your running backs are, because I think Jacobs' second half is going to be very good.
Did you see him play this week?
He played great against the Bears, and he's got a good schedule coming up. Like I drafted him knowing like early on he might struggle a little bit, but I was hoping he wouldn't have a blow up. Again, and I could get him cheap, but now I can't really do that. So depending on who his running backs are, like I think Jacobs is going to be good. I think Sony Michel.
CMC.
Wait, we're not there yet.
Oh,
wait.
Sorry.
Sony Michel. Like again, the Patriots' schedule never gets hard, and so if Michel, Rex Burkhead stays hurt, and the Patriots are going to want to run the ball. I think if he can just look a little bit better, I think, and Juju, I think will be consistent. Hopkins, I have no idea what's wrong with Hopkins, why he's not getting his usual numbers. I feel like that's going to kind of course correct, But with those other receivers, if you're desperate at running back, I might be inclined to do that deal, even though I love DeAndre Hopkins. But really, it would depend on who your running backs are.
Oh wait, so he has Hopkins, and he would get Juju, Sony, and Jacobs?
Yeah.
Oh, I was confused. No, do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Zay Jones, real quick, has asked Christian McCaffrey for Hopkins and Watson. No, that's my answer.
Well, is he? I don't know if he's is he trading or getting in this deal? No.
Whose side wins? Obviously, CMC side.
CMC. Yeah. If you have him, don't trade him for those two. If you're being offered that, if you're being offered CMC for those two, then do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see that flip he did? It's amazing.
Also, Rocky says his other running backs are Zeke, Damian Williams, Tevin Coleman, and Devin Singletary.
Wow. So he would end up with Zeke and Jacobs
and Sony.
And
that's a pretty solid. That's a stable right there.
That's pretty tempting because if assuming that it's a standard lineup, like Yahoo standard lineup where you got two wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a flex, then you're going to play Kupp and Cooper. Yeah. You're going to play Zeke and Jacobs, and then you're going to have your choice of flex between Damian Williams and Sony Michel, or I don't know if Juju ever cracks that lineup, but you've got him as a third wide receiver. But
and you could trade him. Say Juju has a big game this week, boom. You trade him for a good tight end. I don't know who your tight ends are, but
Especially since you could argue Juju's only scored under 10 points once, assuming he does have a big game. Sorry, Jared, go ahead.
No, I'm just like running that through my head. Like, although, going like Amari, Kupp, Hopkins, full PPR 2 flex. Okay. Ooh. Well, in that case, then you could use the depth. Then, yeah.
Waller. Oh my goodness.
Nice.
That'd be interesting. You'd have Waller and Jacobs. That'd be a tough week 11, I think.
But I mean, one tough week. I would, if you're going 2 flex, I was debating it in my head going, DeAndre Hopkins is like, I think he's had some down games, but like, I think he'll bounce back and just have that consistency in there every week. But if you've got 2 flex, where you can, roll out, I think Damian Williams is going to bounce back. They get the Broncos in week 15. The Broncos are horrible against the run. So if you make the playoffs, he's probably going to, blow up for you if he's in there. So I actually probably would do that deal to get.
And I was wrong. They're on bye this week, which is interesting. So you wouldn't have any more buys to deal with for at least Jacobs and Waller. That'd be pretty nice.
That's nice. Take that trade, Rock out. Take that trade.
I can't see a downside.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Hopkins,
not like a major downside.
Hopkins becomes like the true number 1 that he is, and Watson starts to ball out. Then
then you have Amari Cooper and Cooper Kupp still.
He said he had Amari.
Amari and Cooper Kupp. If he just had 1 flex position, I would say maybe the depth is not worth it for the consistency you get with Hopkins. But the fact that he's got 2 flex positions, I think, is what kind of sways me toward taking it.
You can drop Sterling Shepard at this point.
I'm sorry.
No, I wouldn't drop him.
Say that one more time.
I wouldn't drop him. You wouldn't drop
him?
No. He's again. I mean, he's their top receiver, and they get week 15. If you make the playoffs, they get the Dolphins. So
assuming he's healthy too.
I'm trying to keep Sterling Shepard. Yeah, I'll pick anybody who drops him. I'm going to pick him up somewhere.
Rock out. That's I would take that trade. It's a good choice. Anyway, we got to wrap up. Zay Jones, Rock out. Thanks for tuning in. This has been a good episode, I think. Thomas H. also says the first move Judo's make as head coach of the Redskins would be to acquire Danny Woodhead.
My little woodchuck.
You know what? That's what I'm going to do. Next week, on Saturday, I'm going to come in with a full Judo Buddha Washington Redskins roster. and that's going to open us up. I'm bringing that in on Saturday.
I was just going through my mind what name he would call Danny Woodhead by, and so I think it would be like it would go from a progression of like Woody Harrelson, Woody Daniels, Danny Woody. I don't know what's the guy's name.
Woody the Woodpecker. No, that's my little woodchuck, man. I'll never forget his name.
I'm going to get to work on that real quick. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Just to let you all know, we will be here on Saturday, 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern, talking about your stardom sit-ems for the rest of the week. You can catch us every week on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Be sure to subscribe. That is a shameless plug. Yes, it is for our channel. I don't know who I'm going to get. That guy's Jared. That guy's Judah Buddha. I'm AJ Herschel. And over there, we have the StreamYard Duck, our little friend in the top corner.
All right.
We are signing off, and we'll see you next time. Watch the Redskins.
Pet the little duck.
We'll see you next time, guys. If I can click the right button.